You've got miles and miles of grass to mow. So you're going to need a machine built to perform. Day in and day out. Season after season. You're going to need a Gravely. Built to mow the distance.
Now at Myers Equipment and Supplies in Dublin.
Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to have with me today Mr. Tom Rawlings. He is the Director of the Division of Family and Children's Services. I was telling you off camera, one thing about this community, we support our DFACS, our Division of Family and Children's Services, our homeless, our hopeless, and you have spent most of your life caring about, as the Bible said, the least of our brethren.
I have.
So tell me first of all a little bit about yourself.
So I'm from Sandersville and grew up there. My family's been there forever and a day. And so I've had the chance to be a juvenile court judge for the Middle Circuit, which is just east of here. I actually had the chance to preside in this court a couple of times on behalf of Judge Tribble when he was on the bench.
Wonderful.
And since then I have kind of worked in different parts of the system. I was the state child advocate twice, and then I for a time, took a little time and went to Guatemala and was working with International Justice Mission. And then Governor Deal appointed me to be the interim director of the agency, DFACS, last year. And then Governor Kemp just sort of formally appointed me in February. So.
And y'all, take a look at that tie he's got on. Isn't that great? Go Dogs.
You daggone right.
So how did all the things you just mentioned, how did that prepare you for the seat that you sit in today?
I've had the opportunity to see the needs of families and children from a lot of different angles. You know, as a judge working with social workers, as the formal, you know, sort of the guy in charge of being the outside critic for the agency, I've gotten to see how it works in a third world country, frankly, and sometimes how it does and doesn't work. And I think it really has kind of brought a bit of humility to the position. I think you realize that I feel like sometimes I'm the dog who finally caught the car tire, and now I've actually got responsibility for caring for these people, for caring not only for the families we serve, but really for our staff. Because one thing I have realized over the years is that I don't care who's at the top of this agency, the people who get the work done, whether it's in terms of giving out SNAP and food stamps and Medicaid, or whether it's in keeping children safe, are the frontline workers. And so this being out here in this region and down here in Dublin the next few days, I'll get a chance to talk to a lot of our frontline staff.
Absolutely. And any organization, whether it's a television station or a Division of Family and Children's Service or McDonald's, you're only as good as your people.
You're darn right.
And I believe, especially locally, you have a wonderful staff here.
Well, thank you. We're really proud of them. It's a good area.
You should. I know most of them, but they do a wonderful job. And I believe you're born to do this type of work. You have to have a certain calling or a love for your fellow man, don't you think?
I think so. You know, I kind of always go back to my daddy. He was a small town doctor in Sandersville, Dr. William Rawlings Sr., the old one. And a lot of people know my sister, Dr. Jean Sumner, who's kind of down in Wrightsville.
Yeah.
And when we were little, Daddy he'd come home in the afternoon and he would say, get off the couch and go do something constructive. And I think he really kind of put into us, you know, the idea that those who have received much have a lot to give to others and have a responsibility. So it's been a real, I think, a real blessing in my life to be able to serve in this way.
Staying on that line of thought with people, do you have the appropriate, and everybody wants more help, I guess, but are we taking care of the poorest of our fellow man in Georgia?
I think we're doing a good job of it generally. If you look at the fact that we have a really robust set of programs in terms of food stamps, Medicaid, low-income heating assistance, for example, last year we helped 190,000 people heat and cool their homes. And then I think on our child welfare side, we get 140,000 calls. And we understand that our role is to keep children safe, But also, we are working very carefully with churches and community leaders and organizations and nonprofits so that we're all part of a large safety net, so that we have a sort of our humble core mission is to keep children safe, to help those families move from a state of dependency to a state of self-sufficiency. But we need to do that in partnership with churches and organizations and individuals who care.
Okay, move forward on that line of thought to Medicaid.
Yeah.
Insurance is a problem throughout the country. We know that.
Right.
It don't matter if you got money or don't have money,
Right.
but we're talking about the poor and the needy. But are we taking care of these people? Do we have enough, and I know we're getting political here, but do we have enough money to take care of people that needs their teeth fixed, their teeth hurt, or their blood pressure's high, or whatever? Are we taking care of these people?
I think in terms of the children and families we serve, almost all the children we work with are eligible for either Medicaid or Peach Care.
Good.
And so are there obstacles to getting good service? Of course. And I think that's one of the things that we face every day, is making sure that we can make sure the child has a provider, making sure that a child who's eligible for Medicaid or Peach Care is receiving that benefit. That's what we really work to overcome. I think in terms of generally the benefits that we provide to Georgia's children and families, especially those who are in a state of poverty, are really pretty generous and doing well. But we can always do more, and I think with Governor Kemp's efforts to look at the Medicaid waiver to see how we can do even more for this population, while being sensible about the use of funds. I think people say all the time that we just need more money. I've never been one to think that money solves everything. Yeah. It just generally increases the price of things. What solves things is making sure that we are reaching out to everybody, that we really have a heart for service for the people who are in the state, and that we are able to do everything we can for everyone who's eligible for services, and let them know about the services they're eligible for and make sure they get those services.
Other than getting out of Atlanta and getting here to God's country.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear a lot of amens right there.
Amen.
As I just said that. But other than that, what are you doing here today?
So we're down here today and tomorrow and Wednesday. And so, like I said, we're meeting with the whole population of folks we work with. Mm-hmm. So this morning we had a breakfast meeting with some of the judges, some of our attorneys, a lot of our staff, CASA folks, the court-appointed special advocates. Right. Today we're having a community luncheon, and we're going to talk about some of the issues that we're all facing and some of the opportunities for people to serve. So, for example, one of the groups that's coming in is a group that we have partnered with called Promise 686. And Promise 686 is a faith-based organization. They don't necessarily provide foster care. They support, through the churches, families who are providing foster care, and also other families who are in need. So the more that we can expose folks here to the services that are available, to the opportunities for them to serve, the better off we are. We're also, of course, meeting with our own staff, meeting with frontline staff, with the middle managers, with the county directors. We've got a bunch of counties around this area, and we want to make sure that they know that we are focused on supporting them.
Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
Jeff Shepard here at Roach Farm and Garden. Deer season is here. Come to see us at Roach Farm and Garden. We got all your deer hunt necessities. We carry 5-way, 3-way, Harvest Advantage, iron clay peas, wheats and oats, daikon radishes, a bruiser rye, and big boss rye, buck forage and annual rye. We will make your food plots look right. We have all your supplies of deer feed, 17 and 24% protein, QDM and 4S. We even carry 4S draw in the block and bags. And when you get that deer, we've got something to cook him with, from grills to griddles to your deep fryers. You want clothes? We got a full line of Georgia boot, Rocky boot, and all the Carhartt that you could need. And for your pelletized grill, we have any flavor you need. We have ladder stands by Millennium and Amerstep, replacement seats, protein blocks, salt blocks, and attractants, and a full line of coolers. And don't forget to pick your supply up of Voodoo while you're in there. It's at the counter. Don't forget, everything you need for deer season is right here at Roach Farm and Garden. 2 locations, Wrightsville and Dublin.
Welcome back, everybody. We were talking about, you mentioned counties a moment ago
Yeah.
before the break. You know, with 159 counties in the state of Georgia, you got a big job.
Yeah, we got a DFACS office in each of those.
That's got to be tough. I mean, that's got to be a tough job. But you look like, and folks, just not on camera. I've seen him off camera. We've been walking around out here, so I've actually seen him. Most people put on a good face for the camera, but I've been watching him run around and do things. So I can tell, and I feel a certain spirit about you. I feel like you have a heart for what you're doing.
I do.
It wasn't just when the camera come on, folks. But with those 159 counties, first of all, what do you do in a typical day, and how do you get all this accomplished? I know we talked about people, but let's move away from that for a moment. But you know, how do you do this, and what do you do on a typical day?
So we got about 7,900 employees at DFACS,
Wow.
and maybe about half of them are an OFI, which is providing food stamp benefits, Medicaid, that sort of thing.
And you talk to them every day, right?
I've got a really good leader, probably one of the best leaders in the country who knows that system well. And if you think about it, the whole purpose of that system is to make sure that we are timely and accurately getting benefits to people who qualify for them. And that's a job that requires a lot of technology. It's a lot of job that requires a lot of understanding of business processes. And I think we've got a really good team doing that. So honestly, I've got good people working under me, so to speak, or with me, who can do that well. Child welfare, of course, has always been my passion personally, and so I really do spend a lot of time during my day working on things like policy. Like, for example, how do we make things work more efficiently? I'll give you an example. We had a policy, I guess, for the last few years, where we were asking our case managers to travel very long distances to see children. And so, it's great that they go see children, but first of all, we want to see how we can get those children, if they're in foster care, placed closer to their families, and see how we can cut down on our workers' caseloads and workloads. So there's a lot of just practical stuff that I do every day. And I think really honestly, James, the biggest thing I do every day is try to communicate the message that the work that our staff does is we ought to have all of our kindergartners coming home from kindergarten, drawing not only the picture of the fireman and the policeman and the doctor and the other community helpers, but also the social worker, the child protection worker, because these folks go out in the community. They go often into dangerous situations. They are often not the kind of people that folks don't want DFACS in their home.
That's right.
But the truth of the matter is that our workers go out and do so much good for the families they serve that most of the families who actually do work with DFACS or have experienced a DFACS intervention really praise our workers for the fact that they are community servants and community heroes.
I agree 100%. There's no doubt. You always got negative things, and people look at the worst, not just this, but in any situation. It could be at church or whatever. But now let's talk about you're relatively new to this particular position. So what is your vision? What do you see over the next year, over the next 5 years? What's your vision, and what do you want to see happen?
Well, first, I think is the culture of the agency. I firmly believe that people do this work because they come into this work because they care about children, they care about families, they care about serving people. And so my job is to make sure that our culture at the agency supports that. So we want to make sure we're training our people well and giving them the tools they need to be able to do this work. Really importantly, that we are giving them the discretion they need to be professionals, cutting down on the amount of paperwork they have to do and freeing them up to do that professional work that they were born to do. And I think, of course, there's also the issue of making sure that they understand the purposefulness of this work, the beauty of this work, the joy in this work. And a lot of that involves making sure that they are getting family support. So we have our State of Hope program, for example. And through State of Hope, we connect our local county agencies with individuals, churches, nonprofits who want to help. And by bringing folks to encircle them who want to help in this work, it really gives our employees a lighter load, but also really helps them understand the purpose of their work. The second thing I think we need to do is make sure that we as a state understand our limited role. So historically, children were raised by their parents, and when the parent couldn't do it, then grandmama or Aunt Sally, the extended family, took over. And in the communities that you and I are from, that, you know, if you're walking down the street and you're a child and you cross against the light, somebody's going to tell your daddy that, you know.
And that's not good.
No, and they're going to keep an eye on you.
Yeah.
So what we can do as a state more than anything else is to try to keep that child in a loving community with family if possible, in a supportive community, and build up those resources that each community needs to take care of their own.
One thing we're going to be doing at lunch today is, in the panel discussion, is talking about foster care.
Right.
And have some wonderful panelists today to communicate that. They have a heart for the foster families. Well, we struggle in this community to do the things we need for these foster parents. What can we do better there, and what are we doing?
So what we're doing around the state, I think it's important to say, is bringing in groups to support foster parents. So I think, you know, a lot of our own workers, and I say this myself, and a lot of our staff says it, we couldn't be foster parents. It is such an undertaking. It is such an outpouring of energy and love. But what we can, all of us can do, is support a foster parent. So we have organizations that, for example, if a foster parent needs a car seat or needs some diapers or needs anything, that they provide that. We have groups that provide support for foster parents, pray for them, have like support groups where foster parents can get together.
Help babysit a night or two.
Babysit.
I mean, to help them get out of the home, these things. Yeah.
I mean, everybody needs, you know, every couple needs to have their relationship strong.
Yeah.
And if we can provide, if your church, for example, can provide a date night for foster parents, bring all the kids together, feed them pizza, and let the foster parents get out for a while. That's a great help. And it also supports, for the foster parent, the value of their work. So not everybody needs to be a foster parent, but everybody can support a foster parent.
I agree 100%. I just don't know how these people do it, but we have some wonderful foster people in our community and in our state.
And I'm so grateful for all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we go, is there anything that you would like our community to know here in Lawrence and surrounding counties where we can be better stewards, where we can support, and that was great ideas there, but in other areas of Division of Family and Children Services, what can we do to make our people's job easier and better?
So I think a couple of things we need to focus on. We need to make sure that if we see a family that's in trouble, let's make sure that we're trying to get them the help they need. And the services that I see, the biggest need for service I see, is the situation where families are really struggling with either food security or with homelessness. If we can build up our community's ability to provide, for example, food banks, to provide after school, like summertime meals for children who would otherwise be eating for free at school. And if we can build up organizations to provide housing assistance so that people can remain stable long enough that even if they're about to get evicted, they don't have to live in their car, they can maintain a job, we get them through that hard period. It's that sort of work that communities can do. They can keep their eye on this issue, and they can respond specifically, I think, to food insecurity and homelessness issues.
Wonderful. Mr. Rawlings, I know you're busy these next few days, but just the fact that you was willing to sit down and talk with me for 20, 25 minutes,
I'm glad
I really
to do it.
appreciate it.
It's also good to be back down in my home country. So.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. I mean, we can't argue with that, can we, folks?
That's right.
But, and we want to end on that homeless situation, and the information's right there on the screen. If you would like to help the City of Hope, we're trying to open a homeless shelter right now, Mr. Rawlings, here in Lawrence County. We have a problem with homelessness, but if you'd like to help with that, the information's right there on the screen, the P.O. box, the phone number to call me at the television station. But we need your help because we know what it tells us in Matthew 25, when the least of us, when God tells us, what we do to the least of us, inasmuch as we have done of our brethren, and we have done to him. So remember, let's help these people. Let's help the poor, the needy, and let's help Mr. Rawlings and his staff of over 7,000. Is that what
Yeah, exactly.
I remember right if you said that? But let's help them to do a better job, and let's help the poor and needy in our community. Thank you so much for joining us today, right here on TV 35.
Thank y'all.